Hi, in our video today, we are going to be discussing loving someone with depression who pushes you away. And this subject is a very near and dear subject to my heart. I was married to a man who had bipolar for 22 years, and depression is a serious illness. It is not, bipolar, you have mania and depression. And depression is serious. Like, it's an illness. And when you watch someone go through a severe case of depression, you will understand how it's an illness. Your brain has struggles, and you only can get better in the moment with medication. Maybe it's not going to help you. Maybe talk therapy will help, but depression is something that is severe, and it is something that needs to be treated with the same love and care of any other illness. My name is Cherilorenacoaching, and I am a life coach. I help individuals who are post-divorce rebuild their life. I take brokenness into breakthroughs, and I teach you how to do that. But I also have lots of experience with mental illness this was my life for a lot of years, and I've done a lot of research on mental illness. So depression, your chemicals in your brain are out of sync. Your mind, your thoughts are out of sync with how you should be living your life. And I have not been through depression. I've had depressions, like moments that I can relate to someone going through depression, but they only last for, a couple hours and then they're gone. But I at least know how they felt. And one thing that I want you to know is when somebody is in this depression state of mind, they've got like tunnel vision, and they literally can't see out of it. Like like you physically are in tunnel vision. And when the mind is in that for a long period of time, it affects everything around you, because then not only is your sight tunnel visioned, your mind's tunnel visioned, your heart's tunnel visioned. So, and if you had an experience, say that you are an older person in your 40s who is developing depression, or your spouse is developing depression, or your boyfriend or your girlfriend is developing depression, you have to understand that this is severe, and it can become even more severe, especially in this day and age. I don't know what is in the water, but mental illness is a pretty serious issue right now. So the first thing, let's just understand that their depression is not your fault. There might be some projection onto you about the depression because you're in a close relationship with the individual, but this is not your fault, and they need help. And you can't force them to get help. They have to go get that help themselves. They have to understand what state of mind they are in order to go get that help. And they have to be willing to go get that help. And that struggle right there sometimes can be really hard for some people, especially if they're a male and they don't like to go to the doctor. Females are a little bit more apt to go and seek out help, but males are not, because it's not manly to go get help, right? Like, if they haven't dealt with this, especially in that older generation that is like, no, I don't need help. I just need to push through harder. And so that can become a really serious issue. And the goal for me as I went through this is I had to understand that it was up to him to get the help that he needed. And he did want to get help. But we were growing. Mine's just, maybe I'll do a video one day about mine. So the first thing you have to know, this isn't your fault, and they are the ones that need to get help, and they are the ones that are going to have to bring themselves out of it. You can't do it for them, and you can't force them to love you through this. So I have my notes. That's why I keep glancing down. So why are they feeling this? It's as simple as the chemicals in their brain are out of sync. Just like somebody who has blood pressure that's out of sync, or somebody that has blood sugar that's out of sync, their chemicals in their mind are out of sync. And sometimes the only way to help that is through medication. I am not a doctor. I'm a life coach, but I have been through this and I have seen the extreme benefit that can happen with medication. So what are they going through? You have to understand why you're watching it and wishing they would just love you. Maybe in their mind, they're like, I wish I could just feel normal. I wish I could love my spouse. I wish I could love my boyfriend. I wish I could love my girlfriend. I wish I could love my children. Like, if they're not loving themselves, they might just completely be closed off to love in general. Like, because their depression, it's a self-care, self-worth thing that happens. And for somebody in their life, you just need, I think a big question is that I learned through mine is I would ask, like, what are you feeling right now? How can I help you? And I didn't make it about me. I made it about them because it's what they're going through. I'm experiencing the circumstance with them, but I'm not going through the depression they are. That's how I got. So ask them, what are you feeling? And you have to remove, it's sometimes really hard when you hear like, well, I don't feel anything. I don't feel nothing. Like, I don't feel love. I don't feel sadness. I don't feel anything. And that can be how depression is. They can just get to the point that they don't feel anything. So the next thing is you have to decide, what are you willing to go through? Because if this person is in an extreme case of depression, my ex had extreme bipolar. He was bipolar with psychotic features, and on top of that, he has ADHD. He could function in life, but because his stuff was all like life related, so it was really hard to diagnose him. He didn't get diagnosed for 5 years after his symptoms began. But so it really put me through everything. And it also gave me a chance to really research and to understand him and to understand what possibly my children can go through, because, you know, it can be passed down from generation to generation. And so I learned a lot about this during that time. But I also had boundaries that I wouldn't let him cross. And you have to set your own boundaries and understand what your own boundaries are. And same with them. They need to set boundaries of what they're not willing to let you help with or to let you help with. And as they're healing and as you're healing, because if you're in a relationship with somebody that has extreme depression, it's really hard on that companion, on that partner. So I hope that you put boundaries in place on what you're willing to accept and willing to deal with, and how far can you be pushed as an individual without it dragging you down. So that's what sets some boundaries. Know what you're willing to deal with. Know when enough's enough. If they're not willing to get help and they just keep dragging you down, I'm not an advocate for divorce, but I'm an advocate to go get help. And I'm also an advocate that if anything comes into it that is super unhealthy, and you know in your life what is super unhealthy, I can't define that for you, then divorce isn't necessarily a thing. It is always an option. I had to go through it, but it's not the first option. The first option is to go get help for yourself or to go get help for your partner. And the next thing, if it doesn't work out in your relationship, you need to have love. And I know this from experience, and I know how hard this one is. I had to have serious boundaries when I got divorced because my ex had mania, psychosis, and depression all at once. It was not fun. And I had to have serious boundaries in place. But I also had to have love in my heart. Like, you can't just shut that love off like an individual who can with mental illness. I couldn't. I can't just shut that love off. And so I had boundaries in place for when things were really bad, but then I was open to love. And I made this something in my life that I was okay with. I made it so it didn't affect my growth and it didn't affect my progression after divorce, because I had to help my children through this as well. I couldn't just shut him off and shut that off. I had to co-parent with this individual. And so you have to just be open to love when it's available, whether it is through co-parenting, whether you're still married, whether you are just dealing with it with your children and helping them struggle with somebody that is with their parent that's dealing with depression. It's love is the only way to heal. Love and forgiveness. And I hope that if you are somebody that is struggling with depression, or if you know someone that is struggling with depression, my thing is, know that they're going through something that is an illness. You need to have your own boundaries and you need to be open for love. And I hope this was helpful. And I do one-on-one coaching. I help people that go from brokenness into breakthroughs. I teach you how to create a whole new life. If you would like to work with me, my email is in the description box below.